What's doing, everybody? I'm Alec. Thank you for watching First Class Fatherhood. Today's guest on the podcast is legendary NFL linebacker Andre Tippett. Andre Tippett spent his entire football career with the New England Patriots. He continues to work for the organization today. So tap the subscribe button down below, hit the like, and let's jump into it right now with Hall of Fame linebacker Andre Tippett on First Class Fatherhood. Joining me now, First Class Father, Andre Tippett. Welcome to First Class Fatherhood.
Alec, thank you for having me, and I feel honored to be on your podcast.
Awesome. Let's start it like this. How many kids do you have? How old are they?
Wow, I got 4 kids. Oldest is 36, 30, 25, and 22. I had to think about
it. Yeah, I got 4 kids myself. They're not quite there yet. My oldest is just starting high school this year. So what type of sports and activities were they all into growing up?
Because of my martial arts background, I tried to get them all in martial arts, and they all, it's funny. I was talking about this the other night. They all started karate. They all lasted for about 6 months, and they wouldn't come to me. They went to their mother and said, you got to tell Dad I don't want to train anymore. But I don't know how to tell them because they know that I've spent pretty much my whole life training in the martial arts. So that lasted, like I said, short period. But most of my kids, though, they were soccer, track. My baby daughter is a big-time high school athlete. She was a 3-star captain, soccer, lacrosse, track. Going into her junior year, she told me she didn't want to play college sports, which kind of hurt a little bit. But the son, my baby boy, he high school football, Pop Warner. I coached him all through Pop Warner. He was basketball, but then he primarily football. Got a scholarship at Towson University. He actually just transferred from Towson going into his senior year to URI. So he's going to finish up his last year there. Well, actually, he's going to probably do another year because they canceled the season. My oldest girl, like I said, she tried karate. She wasn't a big athlete, but she was the one that probably trained the longest, but eventually quit. And then my middle daughter was cheerleader. She actually cheered for the Patriots for about 3 seasons.
Wow, that's awesome, Andre. Yeah, and I know I know you have an extensive history with the martial arts, and within the last 5 years here, really like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Muay Thai, everything kind of really just blew up, especially because of the popularity of the UFC. Do you watch the UFC at all? Are you into any of that or no?
Occasionally, I will check out a couple of fights. I'm a traditional martial artist, so I those things that they're doing now, I've been doing them a long time, and it doesn't hold the same love affair with me like traditional karate. And being able to, I've spent time in the Orient. I've gone to Okinawa like 5 or 6 times. I've trained there. The longest I've been there has been a month, and it's just something about that. I've been doing it all my life. It was something that I wanted to do as a little boy, and it took me a long time to wrap my arms around it, because obviously growing up in Newark, New Jersey, you go and ask your mom for $25 a month to play for karate classes. She's looking at me like I had 2 heads. So I had to figure out a way to get involved, and eventually I did. And I tell you, it's become a way of life for me.
Yeah, awesome, Andre. Yeah, I'm actually speaking to you from Jersey today, so I love the Newark connection.
Yeah, tell people I said hello if you see anybody from Jersey.
and if you could, Andre, please just take a minute here to hit my listeners a little bit more about your background.
I grew up in Newark, New Jersey. I was not born there. I was born in Birmingham, Alabama, but I left Birmingham when I was 7. My mom moved to Jersey. Typical Southern women leaving the South to go up north for a better way of life. And, eventually she got herself situated, and she sent for me and my sister. And I grew up in Newark, and it was me and my sister in the beginning. And then I had 3 other brothers, and I had another brother that lives in Detroit. And from there, I had a great high school career. I was track, wrestling, football, and then I got lucky and got a scholarship to University of Iowa. I always wanted to play in the Big Ten, and it was a great opportunity that was there for me at the University of Iowa. Great experience, something that I will always cherish, and got drafted by the Patriots in 1982. Second round draft pick, and 12 years. And I've been with the organization now 37, I'm going on 38 years. And I haven't left. So I found a place, as they tell you, growing up, they say, always stay where they know you. And, that was something that the veterans used to always talk about when I first came into the league, and I never understood it. But now I understand and I can appreciate it, and I embrace it.
Yeah, what an incredible career, Hall of Fame career, one of the greatest of all time, Andre. And along this journey that you had, about how old were you then when you first became a father, and how did becoming a dad kind of change your perspective on life?
I became a dad when I got married. It was growing up in Newark. That was a huge milestone for me because a lot of my friends wasn't as lucky as I, and that's not a bad thing. But I had goals, and there were things that I was trying to get accomplished. And my first kid, it was an awesome experience. Girl, and my oldest, and she and I have bonded like you cannot believe as she's gotten older. And it's just someone that I can bounce things off of and have different type of conversations with. And matter of fact, all my girls are like that. My son is a little different. I think he's still trying to prove something, and he, which typical football player, he's still in it, and he has visions of different things. But my girls have been really awesome, and they kind of look after me, and they keep me in line. And like I said, I was 23 when I first had my first child.
Yeah, I have it the opposite of you. I have 3 boys, Andre. Then we got the girl on the 4th try. Otherwise, we'd have 5 by now. But we got her, and she runs the show over here.
Absolutely, she does.
What would you say were the top values you were hoping to instill in your kids as they were growing up?
Be kind to people. Be kind to people, and the thing that I impressed upon them was do for those that can't do for themselves. Protect those that can't protect themselves. And what I mean by that is, I grew up in a time where I was the oldest in the family. I was always big for my age. And I was constantly being challenged. And, it wasn't the fact that I was afraid to confront people, but it was never a fair fight. It was always, some guy that had 3 or 4 of his buddies hanging around, and he wanted to confront me because I was a big kid in the class. And I always knew it was going to never end in a fair fight. So I was constantly ducking and running and avoiding a ton of guys that were freaking bullies that to this day, I look to run into a few of them just to have a conversation with them. And that's the thing that I my girls really was protect those that can't protect themselves. And if you see somebody that is being bullied or someone that's being taken advantage of, step in and help them. And all 3 of them are like that. They are unreal. The conversations that we've had throughout the years, it's been a pretty cool conversation.
Yeah, awesome, Andre. And what type of disciplinarian were you as a father, and was it different than the discipline style that you grew up with?
Whole lot different than what it was when we growing up. I mean, I used to joke with some of my friends. I said, if my mother was alive, was raising kids or raising us right now, she'd probably go to jail like 3 or 4 times, man. But it was what was expected back in the day. It was what was expected in your neighborhood. If a neighbor saw you doing something, stepping out of line, my mother always gave the neighbors the go ahead to do whatever they had to do to put me back in line and discipline me right there on the spot. So we were respectful in that way that, I had to be cool and not get in trouble because, people were always looking out for you. And that was something that I think, started in the South, somehow worked its way up north a little bit. And, but it was something that, you respected and you knew that, if you did something, you got out of line, if you got in trouble, if you had bad grades, there was discipline to be handed out. And so, it worked for me. It made me the man that I am today. I'm respectful, disciplined, have respect for everyone. Now, for me as a dad, was more of a conversation and an expectation and letting the kids know what's acceptable and what's not acceptable, and understanding that there are consequences. And I preach that, especially with my son, because you're a young man now, and you carry the family name. There are high expectations. You are in a role that people are going to constantly be looking at you and watching everything that you do. So you need to understand that you're a reflection upon me, your mother, your sisters, the community that you live in, the high schools that you went to, the colleges that you represent. You represent all that stuff. So you have to be conscious. And so that's been my conversation with my son, and in similar fashion with my girls. I've never had to do anything with my girls other than, I raise my voice and, or every now and then, hey, I'm disappointed in your decision, or and, that was it. And like I said, I've been blessed to have three beautiful daughters that I think the world of, and I'm blessed to have them in my life.
Yeah, really good stuff, Andre. And you mentioned your mom there, and I have read reports that your mother and stepfather both fell to the coronavirus, and I'm sorry for your loss. And I
Thank
also
you.
read that your son got the virus as well. Is that the case? And how did that all
Yeah,
work out? And did you distance from
yeah, it
him and
all
all
worked
that?
out. He had just gotten back from spring break in March, and so it kind of all fell into place. He came home around March 10th from spring break, and it's like all of a sudden, Dad, Mom, I can't taste, I can't smell anything, and right away we sent him to the hospital, and you need to get checked, and we. My wife and I and him, and we were at home, and we basically had to isolate and quarantine for a while. And he's been healthy. Everything is great. And the funny thing about it, throughout that time, he was still, sort of working out and getting his regimen on, anticipating football happening. And then got word that it didn't happen, and then all of a sudden. It's a different world now that we live in. But yeah, he's 100% fine. He's strong, healthy young boy. Again, we're lucky that it wasn't as an extreme case as my mother and my stepdad, who fell victim to it later in March. My stepdad was going in for a pacemaker, and all of a sudden in the hospital, they test him and they find out that he's positive. And then all of a sudden, my brothers at home in Jersey are checking on my mom. And then all of a sudden, they got to call an ambulance because she's sweating like, she's been sitting in a sauna for 3 days, And so obviously from there, the ventilators, help them breathe, and then it went from bad to worse. And they're both in a better place now. I think my brothers and I are all better people for having them in our lives.
Yeah, very well said. And yeah, our world, like you said, is much different now because of this whole thing, and especially for those like yourself that have been personally impacted in such a big way by it. For a lot of us, it's just been about quarantine, stay home, and just kind of, wait it out. But and now speaking of this, obviously. There's no Hall of Fame ceremony this year, so like so many other things have been canceled here. You're still involved with the Patriots organization. How do you kind of see this football season shaping up? What do you expect to see for this year?
It's going to, obviously, as we say, it's going to be a different season than we've ever witnessed before in our life. I think if all 32 teams get through this isolation period, this training camp period to get to the first game of the season, I think we might be lucky enough to make it work. Obviously, it's going to be tough, and you can never 100% get everybody to buy into the platform, and but I'm thinking that guys are going to realize that they got to look out for each other. It's on them to be responsible, and I think if we get through all of that, all 32 teams can get through that. I think we'll have some makeshift of a season, and it'll be something that we'll be able to look back on a few years from now and just shake our head at.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a learning time for all of us too, to kind of see how we can handle things like this moving forward. I mean, it's definitely we're all in new waters here when it comes to this, especially the big leagues like the NFL, NBA, and Major League Baseball. So it'll be interesting to see. Last thing I want to hit you with here, Andre, I love to ask all the dads that I get on the podcast, what type of advice do you have for that new dad or for that about to be father who's out there listening?
Wow. Hey man, love your kids. Show them as much love and compassion as you can. You gotta, you gotta do everything that you can to teach them right from wrong. And but the ability to tell your kids that you love them, wrap your arms around them, and try to raise them at the best way that you know how. I mean, we've all been influenced by so many different ways of raising kids, and but for me, I saw love, I felt love from my mom, and I in return have showed love to my children, and I've done everything I can to make life better for them than it was for me, and give them better opportunities than you were able to have for yourself. And I think with that, I mean, a lot of the other things are going to be trial and error. But if you find love in your heart to be compassionate with your children and to teach them compassion, that to me, I think that's probably the best advice that you could probably give anybody.
Yeah, very, very well said. I love the message. This has been an honor for me. I got to say, Andre Tippett, you're a first-class father all the way, and thank you so much for giving me a few minutes of your time here on First Class Fatherhood.
Alec, thank you. It's a pleasure meeting you, and I hope at some time I'll run into you somewhere.